Hello, good morning. Good morning and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. We have two 40% alcohol, 40% alcohol, non-age stated Canadian blended whiskeys. The first one is definitely not a top shelf. It is Gran Legacy Canadian whiskey with natural flavors, introduced in 2006 for sale at CVS Pharmacy. Okay, so it started as a CVS Pharmacy brand, yes, in Louisiana and other states, not too many states, but in Louisiana, CVS Pharmacy sells liquor, beer, and wine. And their liquor section is pretty big. It's nothing huge, it's nothing huge, but it's got a decent selection for people that are, shopping at a pharmacy drugstore. And their trademark request was their trademark application kept getting denied. You'll see nowhere on here does it claim it's trademarked. I don't know why it got denied, but they finally abandoned the trademark, and I think they abandoned the whole product line. I went to CVS last week and I saw one bottle. I went to two CVS pharmacies. I saw one bottle of Grand Legacy gin, big bottle like this, $9.97. So they're just trying to get rid of it. That's it. And I get the feeling that it's been discontinued, but they might have just released it for sale to whoever wants it. So Legacy, it says Legacy Distilling. Okay. They might still produce it for whoever wants it. I did buy a bottle last week at Star. Star is not just a liquor store, but they sell liquor in a huge amount in Kenner, Louisiana. They had this on the shelf, and I wanted to get a price check because I didn't see a price tag. So I said, "Can you give me a price check or do a price check?" The guy said, "Yeah." So he scanned it, $10.99. I said, "Okay." I told him before I'm not looking to buy it. I just wanted the price. Okay. So I was going to put it back on the shelf because I was buying two other products. And he says, "Sir, if you want to buy it now, I'll make a deal." And he mumbled something like, "I'm trying to get rid of it," or something. I couldn't really understand. I didn't ask. I didn't say what. I said, he said, "I'll make you a deal." I said, "Oh, yeah? Yeah. If you buy it, I'll sell it for $8.99. So I was like, $8.99 for a whole handle, see, handle, plastic. I said, "Okay." And I gave it to my friend David. And I told him, I said, I know you don't like plastic bottles and you're not into Canadian whiskey. I said, "But if you want it, you can have it as $8.99 at Star." I thought he was going to say, "Nah, I don't want it." And then I'd figure out what to do with it. "Oh, no," he said, "for that price," he said, "I'm not turning it down." So he poured this into a bottle of an empty bottle of White Horse Scotch, glass bottle. So he solved the problem, and he didn't spill any either. Okay, now I didn't ask him what he thought of it. He smelled it and he said, "Yeah, I can smell that vanilla," because I had that suspicion they were using vanilla. Okay, so here's the competitor, Crown Royal, but this is not the typical purple bag. This is a khaki bag with gold trim. Yeah, or maybe that's beige. I don't know what color that is. Okay, not khaki. Khaki's like more of a tan, right? Okay, so beige. I don't know. I took art class years, but I never did get a handle on some of these colors. Okay, this is the Bourbon Mash. It's been discontinued. They got it listed under their retired whiskeys. Bourbon Mash, introduced 2018 and later renamed Blender's Mash. Because at first the U.S. government said, "Yeah, you can call it Bourbon Mash." Then the bourbon companies got in an uproar, and so the U.S. government changed their mind and said, "Oh, no, you can't call it Bourbon Mash because people are going to think it's bourbon." It doesn't say that anywhere on the bottle that it's bourbon. It says it uses a bourbon mash, meaning mostly corn. But that's probably for every Crown Royal is mostly corn. But they specifically they spe- specifically tried to mimic bourbon because they used a mash that would be used in bourbon. They used new charred oak barrels, white oak barrels, never before used barrels, and it is a bourbon, but they cannot call it bourbon because it's not made in the United States. So they call it bourbon mash, but then they had to change the name to Blender's Mash. But international markets still got bottles, new bottles, and they say bourbon mash. So that's still available, although it's not in production anymore. Okay, it's been discontinued. Okay. So there's a good chance you could still find it. That's what I'm saying. You could probably still find it at your local store because, like I say, it's sold out around here in this town. Walmart's they sold their allotment, and I don't think they ever reordered it. I never saw it again. And then Bethune, same thing. They sold theirs, and I don't think they ordered it again. I think I bought it at Bethune's. Yeah, it was like $27.99. And then international market has it, but they may have never sold their allotment. It might just be what they still have, but they can't order it again because it's no longer made. Oh, unless the distributor's got a bunch in the back stock in their warehouse, which is possible, I guess. Okay, so yeah, this was part of their signature series, but now, like I said, it's been retired. Put it back in the bag. Yeah, it's dark red, reddish brown, like bourbon, right? Not quite even. I'm not taking that back out that bag. Just got to put a little bit more. That's it. I'm not adding anymore, no matter what. Okay. Is it worth the $27.99? Oh yeah, it is. Can't do a price check because, like I say, it's probably nobody's carrying it. But yeah, but that's what you're gonna pay. International might have it a little cheaper, but it's probably not cheaper. So this one, like I said, is more copper looking. This one is more amber gold. Now, does the Grand Legacy have coloring added? It's possible, but usually they would say that, like, well, I don't know if they'll say that because you get the Northern Lights, Caliber, this Grand Legacy, Canadian Limited, Rich and Rare. That's 5 right there. And they all say with natural flavors, but none of them say with caramel color added. So maybe they don't. Maybe they do add the color, and maybe they don't. They're not required to say. So it's like Scotch and Irish whiskey. They might have it. They may not. Usually, if they don't talk about it, that means they've got it. Now, if the bottle says natural color, color, that means it doesn't have the coloring. Okay. Brandy, you can add color to brandy. Don't have to talk about it. Don't have to disclose that. I read the regs. You can do it with rum. You can add coloring. No problem. Now, in the U.S. and the United States, you cannot add coloring or flavoring to Scotch or Irish whiskey or Canadian whiskey. You can't. That doesn't mean they can't. Okay, once it comes in, if you read the regulation, once it's here, then you can bottle it. You can bottle it in the United States. You can't add coloring or flavoring. So if they do that in Canada, that's their business because Canadian whiskey is distilled, blended, and bottled under the laws of Canada. It's not bottled under the laws of the United States. Same thing with Scotch and Irish whiskey. See, they have their own laws, and their laws are applicable to them. Okay. Uh, Angelo Ziccarelli says, hello, good morning from Arizona. Good morning to you in Arizona. It's been a long time. I haven't been to Arizona since 2006, going on 20 years. True story. Okay. What did I do when I was there? Well, I did cross the border into Mexico and visited a town, which was very nice. And then I also went to see a Arizona Diamondbacks game at that stadium, the big retractable roof stadium, which they never really retract the roof. But yeah, it was really interesting playing the Angels interleague game, so called, because really they're the same league now. The two leagues were legally evaporated in the year 2000 and replaced with Major League Baseball as a legal entity. But they exist on paper, at least, as a in the mind of the fans, as two separate leagues. But in reality, they're not. Okay. That's got to be the Crown Royal because I don't smell any of that weird vanilla aroma. On the other hand, I'm not really smelling it here either. Odd. Does one of these smell like bourbon? I guess. But why wouldn't it? I mean, Canadian whiskey is basically bourbon, but they can't call it that because most Canadian whiskey is like around 80% corn. Is that a rule? No. Just has to have grains. That's just the common practice. Do they have rye Canadian whiskeys? Yeah, I've got one. Alberta Premium, 100% rye. But that's not common. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's not the common type of whiskey from Canada. It's not the common type from the United States. Can you get American rye whiskey? Sure. Is it common? I mean, it's around. Most liquor stores sell it. It's not the most popular type, though. You know, the most popular type is bourbon. And in Canada, it's mostly the corn based whiskey. Um, can you get a wheat whiskey from Canada? Yeah, I'm sure you can. Can you get a barley malt whiskey? Oh, I've seen those Canadian single malt whiskeys. Now, I wouldn't say it's anything that's catching on, but it's coming around. Like even American companies are starting to make like Kentucky single malt whiskey and all of this because everybody wants to do everything. Is there anything wrong with that in the world of whiskey? No, I don't see why there would be anything wrong with it. It's up to you. Doesn't mean people are going to buy it, but they might want to try. They might want to check it out. Taste time. All right. Couldn't smell it, but I'm tasting it. And it's funny because when I first smelled this, I thought I was smelling bourbon, and I was saying I thought this was the bourbon mash, but I'm tasting it. I know this is the Grand Legacy with that vanilla thing going on. Going on. It is. Haven't gotten it wrong yet. I don't think. Now, did it taste very similar to those Sazerac whiskeys with natural flavor, like Canadian Limited and all of that? Yeah, sure did. Didn't taste identical, but it sure did taste similar because they're all similar. So, yeah, it's sort of like if you've had one, you've had them all, but it's not totally like that. But it's mostly like that. Okay, so if you say, "Oh yeah, I don't need to keep tasting all of that kind of stuff," and you don't want to buy it, yeah, I could see. I would say, yeah, I go along with that. I get it. I get that. I don't really need to try them all either, but I just kept getting deals, so I kept buying them. I mean, when Dixie had it, I said, "Oh, 14.99 for a whole handle of Canadian blended whiskey." Oh, sure, I bought it. Then I go there a month later, and it's 13.99. I said, could have waited, saved $1, but then I thought it was going to go up. I thought with inflation, it's going to go up. Everything I bought at Winn Dixie went down. I bought the silver rum, the gold rum. They were like 15.99. No, I'm gonna take that back. I think they were 14.99. I went back and they're 13.99. I bought the bourbon. It was like 16.99. Went back, it was 15.99. I bought the tequila, and it was the same store. It was like 18.99. And I went back and it dropped to 16.99. It dropped $2 a bottle. I said, man, I could have saved nearly $10, but I don't know why they don't make a brandy though. They make vodka. There's a WD Liquors vodka at Winn Dixie, but no brandy. But they sell enough Hartley, and that's the cheapest stuff. So still in all, you think they would have added a Winn Dixie brandy, but they never did. I never seen it. Oh, I'm sorry, WD Liquor Brandy. Sorry, WD Liquors. That's the name of the brand, WD Liquors. There's even a liquor store in Jacksonville, Florida, WD Liquor Store. Obviously part of Winn Dixie. Now owned by Aldi. Are things going to change now that Aldi's bought it? Maybe. Hopefully for the better. I hope it doesn't turn into Aldi, where I go to Aldi over here and it never has anything. Then I went to Metairie, nothing. It's empty. They have a handful of beer brands on the shelf. Usually they got some Werner's Gruner lingering around and some of their seltzer and ciders. Maybe they'll have, like, one week you'll go, they have the Monterey Cerveza from Guatemala. Next week you go, they might have these dry hop sours. Next week they might have the pumpkin ale. But they never have a fully stocked, or they might have that Samuel Adams Boston Lager knockoff. All Dogger. Not Boston Lager. Aldi Lager. All Dogger. Which is pretty good. But they never have it fully stocked. And every time I ask about it, they say, well, we got to see what comes in. So apparently they're having problems getting the stock. And it probably is because State of Brewing can't produce it fast enough. And that's a small craft. I know it's a contract brewer, right? They only do contract brews. They don't make their own brands. Still, it's the size of a craft brewery. It's not a macro. So I think what's happening is they can't get enough made. So then there's always something missing in the store, a lot of stuff missing. And it's like maybe one week they'll make that, and then, the next week, we got this. Maybe they should get a contract with a bigger producer, because the wine's always stocked. The wine is always full. I think they get their wine from E&J Gallo and the Wine Group. Two big companies. They're never going to run out, under normal circumstances. You can't say, well, it's the scamdemic. We're still under the scam. We are technically, because of people's fear psychosis. But even the U.S. government, in all of their mendacious ways, says that the scamdemic is over. Of course, they probably like to bring it back, but I just think their beer production is bad because they don't have a good supplier. I mean, the beers they make are okay. Okay on the worst case scenario, and most excellent on the good end. So some of the stuff like that McGuire Stout is, man, that is a mess. And that Brecken Bach, it's worse than the thing it's trying to mimic, which is Shiner Bach. Well, usually they're not as good, but Shiner not too exciting on its own. Other Shiner beers, on the other hand, are very good, but Shiner Bach to me is, you ought to call it Shiner Blah. Does the bourbon mash taste like bourbon? Yeah, it really does. Tastes like a lot of corn. sweet corn, charred oak, little vanilla, a little like with bourbon, you get that kind of honeysuckle nectar thing going on with it. If you gave that to somebody blind and didn't tell them what it was, they would say, oh, let me think. That tastes like a 3-year age bourbon, something like that. Is that Evan Williams? Well, at 40% alcohol, I don't know if they'd guess Evan Williams because that's 86. They might say Jim Beam. Something like that. I don't think anybody would guess. Oh, it's Old Fitzgerald. I see that. I never bought it, but I do see it around. 1999, Old Fitzgerald. But wee baby. Tell you one thing, this boat is a mess. I got too much bourbon. Can't buy anymore. I got to refuse it. Even a gift. I told somebody gave me a gift. Say no. Okay. All the parking lot. Oh, Jean-Pierre says, good morning, Mr. T. I'm at the parking lot at work. Good. Have a good day at work, Jean. 1792 small batch for Fandango Friday. Oh, yeah. Your brother, you said your brother really liked it. Okay, good. Good one. I don't have that in my stock, but I've tasted it. David always getting that stuff. C score for Aldi beers. You say they're average. Kind of not too great. Yes, that's true many times. Their distribution and availability is really horrible here. Now in Europe, they always buying. I always see these European people talking about, I bought an Aldi beer. Aldi. So I get the impression they're well stocked over there, but they probably got a good supply. Or it's a terrible thing. You go to Aldi, everything is full except the beer section. Like everything, every aisle is full of products. Cold, frozen, dry goods, home decoration, whatever they had that aisle. All full. Wine, all full. Get to the beer section, almost all empty. It's pitiful. Hey, but that's on them. That's not my problem. I mean, it is my problem when I go over there to shop and there's nothing there. I mean, yeah, I guess it is my problem. It's aggravating. Did find the pumpkin ale, which I liked. Either I like it or I love it. Every time I try it, it's different. One time I like it. The next time I love it. Then I like it. Then I love it. Because I'll be like, oh, it's too spiced. They use too much spice. Then I'll say, oh no, it's just right. I can't figure it out. I cannot figure it out. But anyhow, I am going to go buy some beer now. All right. Well, not exactly right now, but very soon, within the next hour for sure. Okay, well, y'all take care, and see y'all tomorrow night for any Oktoberfest beer. We're going to examine any Oktoberfest beer that anyone wants to bring. Could be a fest beer, a Marzen beer, or a Marzen beer that the company mistakenly calls a fest beer. Oh, man. Okay. You have a good one too, Solomon Flores. So, yeah, I'm going to bring Samuel Adams Oktoberfest, I think. Already brought that. Oh, no. I bought something different. I'm going to bring the Shiner Oktoberfest Marzen. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's what I'm going to bring. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.